Hello and welcome to our focus session on Power Automate. In this session, we're going to be focused on providing an overview of the transformative tool that is Power Automate and guide you through building your own automated solutions. So let's get started. So Power Automate is an online workflow service that automates actions across the most common apps and services. Today, we'll be looking at an overview of Power Automate, as well as how to build an automated solution. Start off by that automated solution overview. So what we'll focus on is learning the business value of Power Automate, and we'll see how Power Automate works and looks from a user's perspective. If you ever find yourself downloading email attachments and then uploading the file to a database, Power Automate can help with that. Does the process of getting a new purchase order approved involve you taking the form from desk to desk to desk and to get sign off? Well, Power Automate can help with that too. Do you have to log into a website every morning, find the daily numbers, and then save those into another system? Power Automate can help. Power Automate is all about having computers manage repetitive tasks. Power Automate helps and allows anyone with the knowledge of the business process to create a repeatable flow that, when triggered, leaps into action and performs the process. So some of the common scenarios and capabilities of Power Automate: we can automate repetitive tasks like moving data from one system to another, guiding a user through a process so they can complete it in different stages, connecting to external data sources via one of the hundreds of connectors that are available, or directly via an API. Also, the possibility of automating desktop-based processes with robotic process automation, or RPA. And we'll also dive into the example flow in the following slides. So let's dig in. When we're talking about manual tasks, things can get into that state where it becomes almost error prone, right? So the objective behind Power Automate is precisely the opposite. We want to take these manual, repetitive, and error-prone tasks that are really just this drag on strategic thinking and needs to drive business forward, and we can improve that business process by scaling automation across the organization. So some of the ways that we can do this is within Power Automate is through the power of Microsoft's cloud services and a combination of digital process automation, or DPA. We can also use robotic process automation, RPA, in one single automation platform. So key capabilities include automate legacy software using bots and screen scraping, without APIs, with SaaS-based RPA. So we can also automate across your, widely used first and third-party apps and services. There's over 275 without APIs as well. So Power Automate is an end-to-end platform for data integration across on-premise software and cloud services. So integrate your data from Dataverse to get a holistic view across your business. Natively integrates with Microsoft's three largest cloud services, namely Azure, Microsoft 365, and Dynamics 365. And then we can capitalize on cost-effective pricing for individuals and teams that scale based on our needs. DPA also enables everyone to do their jobs without having to wait for information or request additional access. So most organizations have some type of approval process that could benefit from automation. For example, time off, invoice approval, project sign-off, things like that. An approval process is a really great way to kind of get started in that area, and that's what we're going to be looking at. Another example here is looking at a purchase order approval. So as you can see, even the business process has many decision points. Your flow easily handles the different decisions without you writing any code. Power Automate works by creating flows, and there are three types. Event-driven flows. These are flows that you build with a trigger that has one or more action. And thanks to the existing connectors, there's a multitude of triggers and actions available. You'll see these flows as my flows or as team flows in Power Automate. The only difference between a my flow and a team flow is ownership. With a my flow, you're the sole owner. So you as the user who created the flow is the sole owner, and while a team flow has more than one owner. There's also business process flows. Now these flows are built to augment the experience when using model-driven apps and Dataverse. We use these to create a guided experience for our model-driven apps. And then there's also desktop flows, formerly known as UI flows. These RPA flows allow you to record yourself completing actions on your desktop or within a web browser, and then you can trigger a flow to do that process for you. You can also pass data in or data out of the process so that you can automate even manual business processes. So let's get started on how we can build our own automated solution. Building an automated solution involves creating a system or process that can perform tasks or operations without human intervention. So these specific steps and technologies that you'll use will depend on the nature of the task or process that you want to automate. Power Automate has hundreds of triggers and actions and connectors. So sometimes the hardest part is figuring out where to start. Fortunately, there are countless flow templates available to help you build a solution. To see all the templates available, sign into Power Automate and select templates from the left menu. From here, you can search by a specific word or phrase like Common Data Service, Dataverse, or browse based on category. If you click a specific template, you'll see more details, including the data sources it will connect to. Create a flow to save email attachments to OneDrive for Business from a list of templates. Search for Save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive for Business. Then click Template to start using it. Click Create Flow at the bottom of the screen to create the flow. Some important concepts to keep in mind when we're building flows. Every flow has two main parts, a trigger and one or more actions. Think of the trigger as the starting action for the flow. And the trigger can be something like an email arriving in your inbox, a new item being added to a SharePoint list, and actions are what you want to happen when a trigger is invoked. So for example, the new email trigger will start the action of creating a new file in OneDrive for Business. Other examples of actions include sending an email, posting a tweet, or starting an approval. So some examples of types of actions that you can have in a flow include loops, so running an action until conditions are met to move to the next step of the flow. Switch, which identifies a single case to execute based on the evaluation of the input. Do until, where it executes a block of actions until a specific condition evaluates to true. Apply to each. This executes a block of actions for each item in the input array. Expressions, underlying definition that describes the actual logic that runs in your flow and that can be manually written. So you can also perform data operations in your flow, such as compose, create a CSV table, join or select. And these concepts come into play later when you're building flows from scratch. With Power Automate, you don't think of running a flow the same way as you do with the Power Apps app. Instead, you do the activity that triggers the flow to run. In the case of the previous flow, instead of periodically running it manually, it would automatically run every time a new email is received with an attachment. This is because the flow has the trigger that determines when it should run. Let's say we want to create scheduled flows. So for example, in this example that's on the screen here, if you want to build a flow that runs every 2 weeks, we'd enter a 2 in the interval field, and then we select week in the frequency field. You can also specify the day of the week that your flow should run, and the text at the bottom of the dialog box explains the inputs in plain language. So for example, let's set up the flow as shown in the following graphic to start it no earlier than noon Pacific time on Monday, January 1st, 2024, or 2025, and to run it every 2 weeks at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time on Tuesday. Then we would use the compose action and the compose action as part of the data operation to save yourself from entering identical data multiple times when you're designing a flow. You can also follow these steps on Build Recurring Flows on Microsoft Learn. To build recurring flow, we'll be looking at that in a demo exercise shortly. If, say, we want to create a flow using a button through a Power Automate mobile app, first what we need to do is download and install the Power Automate mobile app from the App Store. And then after it's installed, we'd start it and sign in. Sign in with our corporate credentials or our tenant credentials. When you first start the app, you'll see the activity feed. This is where you'll see what's happening with your flows. It won't be the full experience you'd expect from your PC, but it will show some useful details. So for example, you'll see the flow's last activity and find out whether it succeeded or failed. And if it failed, you'll see what went wrong. So there's also a build a button flow on Microsoft Learn. We'll also be looking at a demo of building a button flow shortly. Now, next up, we've got desktop flows. So desktop flows, also known as robotic process automation or RPA, are technology used to automate repetitive tasks on a desktop or a computer environment where no predefined APIs, application programming interfaces, are available for automation. They're primarily used to streamline and optimize business processes by mimicking the actions of a human user interacting with a computer interface. Let's dive into a demo where we will walk through the deployment of various Power Automate flows. Welcome to our next demo where we're going to be looking at building an automated solution. So again, the scenario, we're working for Bellows College, educational organization, lots of campuses, lots of visitors. We want to modernize the registration system. If you have done the previous demos, then you technically have your data modeling app and your model-driven app. And so we are in this process now going to automate some parts of the app in order to have email notifications sent out when a visit gets scheduled. So let's go ahead and kick it off. So again, starting with the usual, we need to go ahead and log into make.powerapps.com. And I'm already signed in, so I'm good to go, but just make sure that you have the right environment selected. On the left-hand side, we're going to select flows. So this might happen if you're building this out for the first time. Just going to ask for your country region, and then you can just click get started. So we'll just say get started. So next up, what we're going to want to do is create a new flow. So we're going to create our very first flow, and it's going to be an automated cloud flow. So we'll click new flow up at the top, and we want to create an automated cloud flow. So what we're going to do is name this, because it's for our visitors, we're going to name this visit notification, and we're going to choose our flows trigger, which is going to be Dataverse. So let's just do a search for Dataverse. And what we're going to look for is when a row is added or modified or deleted. So this is what we want because we want it to notify when a new visit is registered. So we'll click on this one and we'll click create. All right. So next up, how do we want it to behave? So we're looking for when a new row gets created in this Dataverse table. So what are we looking to trigger on? So what we're going to want to do is when the type gets changed, which is added, so we want to only react to this this added event. So we're adding a new visit, and that's what we want to have notify us about. So the table name now, we just need to select the right table. So we're going to look for our visits table that we created in the earlier demo. And we're going to select organization as the scope. Now on the trigger step, we can add a very specified step. So what we can do is rename it here by clicking on the ellipsis and then clicking rename. We're going to make sure that it's clear what's going on. So one of the major points about Power Automate and flows is really just making sure that all the steps are clearly defined and is easy to look at and rapidly understand what's going on. So this trigger is when a visit is added. And there we go. So next up, what we want to do is create a new step where we're going to look for the visitor row so that we can find details about the contact, essentially. So let's click New Step, and we're going to search for Dataverse. So we've got Microsoft Dataverse, and then down here we've got a bunch of different actions that are available. So our next step, we're looking for an action, and what we want to do is retrieve the visitor information, including the email address. So we're going to have to get the row ID as the first step. So get a row by ID. Then we're going to select the table, which is contacts, because that's where the user information is stored. Scroll down here to contacts. And the row ID is visitor value from a dynamic lookup. So what we're going to want to look for is the visitor value. So we're looking at visitor value. So we're looking up the contact for the visit row that was created to trigger the flow. Because that email address is part of the contact table, we need to grab that information in order to send the email to the visitor. So row ID, visitor value. Next up, again, when a visit is added, we want to clearly define what this action is doing. So we'll rename this and we're going to call it get the visitor. So next up, we need an action that is going to actually send the email. So let's create a new step. And this time we're going to search for send mail, send an email. So we've got send an email V2. This one is perfect. This is the exact one that we're going to want to use. So we'll select send an email V2. And let's customize the content. So for the to field, this is where we're going to want to add dynamic content on the bottom right here underneath the field. And we're going to want to use the value of the email address that is the primary email address for the contact. So we're adding in the to field dynamic content that's pulling the email address from the contact table. And there we go. In the subject field, we're going to type in something specific because in this case, it's a notification that they're getting a reply to their request for a visit to Bellows College. And then in the body, we can add dynamic content to help fill this out. So here we can type in dear, and then we'll say add dynamic content. We'll put the contact's name, say first name, type in some details about the visit. So you're currently scheduled to visit Bellows campus. And let's add dynamic content to specify the time and details of the visit. So we'll go to scheduled. Yes, going down here to find the scheduled time. So first name, that's good. Scheduled start needs to be lower. It's kind of annoying that this is cut off here, but let's try to dig up the right values. Let's search for scheduled start. There we go, scheduled start. And then we'll want to add until scheduled end. All right. So you're currently scheduled to visit Bellows campus from scheduled start time, pulling it from the Dataverse table, until scheduled end, also pulling it from the table. Now let's just add polite ending to the email, and we should be good to go. So ultimately, this is what our flow looks like so far. So when a visit gets added to the visits table, we'll get the contact information based on the visitor value, and we'll send an email to the contact information, their email address, and pull some of the information from that table as well, including when their schedule is set to start and when it's set to end. So that's what our flow looks like. Let's go ahead and clear that. So we'll say save. So I didn't rename the send an email one because it's pretty clear. So when a visit is added, get the visitor, send an email. Good to go. All right, so next up, we want to just make sure that the flow will work properly. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're logged into the right location again. Still connected to Power Apps. I haven't changed that or anything. Still logged into Dev1. We have our flow open. So let's go ahead and click test. So in this case, we'll manually trigger the flow to run, and we'll click test. So the flow is kicking off now. And what we're going to want to do is make sure that the flow works is by executing our application by adding a new element to the application. So let's hop into our model-driven app here. And we'll go to Apps, Bellows Campus Management. Just double check that our flow is currently running. It is, perfect. So I added an additional entry here with my email address, so we can double check that it works. Let's go ahead and schedule a new visit, create a new visit. The visitor will be myself. Schedule start is today and today as well. Going for a long visit, and actual start, we'll leave that blank. So we're scheduled, good to go. Save and close. And let's go double check how our flow reacts. There we go. So we can see that after creating the entry, flow is running. These green checkbox mean that it was able to perform these. It was able to detect the trigger. It detected the addition of a contact entry as in the visit table. It was able to collect the visitor ID, and we can look at the details of the event that's going on and the information that it's pulling. We can also see that it was able to grab the contact information and generate the data accordingly. Send an email looks like it worked as well. So let's go and double check to make sure that we actually received the email. So we'll just hop into Outlook. Wasn't signed in for some reason. Hang on a second. Let's go to outlook.office.com, and there we go. So I can see that I automatically received an email confirming that my scheduled visit is set from campus administration. And that was all done automatically after creating a new entry in the Bellows Campus Management app. So the flow, keeping it logical, working its way through. Now what we can do is go back to the flow here. And we can see under the list of our cloud flows that visit notification is created and is ready to run anytime a new notification or a new visit is scheduled. So that concludes this demo. We'll head back into the presentation. Thank you for engaging with our Power Automate session. Armed with a comprehensive overview and practical experience in crafting automated solutions, you're now ready to streamline your workflows and increase efficiency across your projects. There are many ways to continue your learning journey, and we encourage you to watch the other videos in this course or search out your next favorite topic on Microsoft Learn.